But anyhow, we're sitting here on the set of the producer's chair, and I'm sitting here with James Rea.
Hi, Donna.
Hello. And I'm going to be asking him some questions for Yahoo.
Wonderful.
You just explained to me the story about how you got the set, and that's a really, really cool story. How long does it take you to set up?
15 minutes.
That's not bad.
It's that quick.
Okay, and you do them at Douglas Corner.
Yeah.
Have you always done them at Douglas Corner?
No, when I first started the show, my intention was, being a musician all my life and playing in bars, you know that every bar has their regulars and their barflies who don't go anywhere else. So my intentions in the beginning was to do the show in one place for what I would call a series, and a series was 4 shows.
Okay.
So I would do 4 months in one place, move it to the next place, do 4 months, move it to the next place, do 4 months. Well, that was my thought in the beginning, but as it turned out, I would move it around to these different places, and the sound was different in every place, the lighting was different in every place, the atmosphere was different, and some places didn't have as many regulars as I'd hoped for, So then I got to, after the first year of moving it around, we did it in 3 places. We did it at 3rd and Lindsley, then we went to Station Inn, then we went to Douglas Corner, then we went to the Commodore over at the Holiday Inn.
Okay, you over at the Commodore.
Yeah, and then we went to Douglas Corner. When I got to Douglas Corner, it was the best sound, the best lighting, and the best vibe in the room. And now I've been there 6 years.
I was going to ask that too. How many years?
Yeah.
And let's backtrack a little bit too, because before you were here, you were and you were originally from Canada.
From Toronto.
Why Nashville? How Nashville? How did you get here?
I was playing in piano bars, and there was a club up in Toronto that I was the regular player. I was the house player for 6 years, and there was a couple of clients who came in. It was in the Bay Street district, which is the financial district downtown.
Okay.
Okay, and these 2 guys used to come in, which was very unusual for Toronto, with cowboy hats and suits and cowboy boots. They were probably the only 2 guys in Toronto who went to work like that every day.
Did they really?
Right.
They went to work?
Yeah, I mean, they were real country music nuts, these 2 guys. And they were both in their, 50s. And they were regulars at the bar where I played, at the piano bar. So they used to come in and they always say, "Jimmy, play me some country music." Right? Well, I hated country music. I mean, because it was all, that old whiny stuff and that I
Twiny, whiny stuff.
Yeah, so it didn't really do much for me, and being in, growing up in Toronto, I was more into, R&B and rock.
Okay.
That was my thing. Well, I wanted to please these guys, so I learned 10 or 12 country tunes, and they were real standards, Stand By Your Man and Crazy, and the ones that
Okay.
the ones that everybody would learn, and then my wife and I moved out of Toronto up into farm country, and I wound up getting a couple of horses, and somebody said put a radio in the barn to keep him company. So what radio station would I put on?
Country music?
Obviously a country station. And going down to the barn every morning, I heard Garth Brooks and all these guys, in the early 90s for the first time.
And that's when country music was really good.
That's when country music started to change.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And so I thought, well, boy, these guys, the 2 guys down at High Steakhouse where I worked, they would just love it if I started writing some original. So I started writing some original country tunes, and they said to me, "James, why don't you take these tunes, we've got some connections down in Nashville. We go down there all the time. We know some publishers. Why don't you take your stuff down to Nashville and see if you can get it published, because it's pretty good." And I was kind of on the end of my piano playing days, I was 45, 47 in that neighborhood, and the writing was kind of on the wall. So I came to Nashville. I took a week and came down to Nashville, and I fell in love with this city. That's how
it's easy to love.
And that's how I wound up here.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Sorry it takes so long.
We haven't spoken about that on the phone.
I know.
So that was new. I'm glad that we got to that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about Rama.
You
want to tell me about that? I was checking out your website.
Right.
And it was really interesting. The whole concept is really interesting.
Thank you. When I decided to move to Nashville and stop playing piano in bars, to retire from that, I came to Nashville and I decided that I was going to try song plugging, okay, representing writers and some publishers and so on. And I got into it. I got my first cut, my first major cut for one of my clients. Mm-hmm. And when I got that cut, all of a sudden my phone started to ring, and it was all these artists, these young artists
that needed help.
Well, no, that were calling me to say, you know, can we come and listen to your catalog because we're looking for material. Then when they came into my office and started listening to material, I would just out of curiosity and, you know, start asking them questions about their careers and what they're doing and what it's been like in Nashville and what their next steps were, and none of them knew what they were doing.
And they had no idea where to go.
You have no idea how many of them, you know, wound up in tears in my office when they started telling me the stories of what had happened and how they'd met the wrong people since they came to Nashville. And my heart just kind of went out to them all, and I thought, you know, I think I've spotted a hole here in the industry, because I didn't know if there was anybody out there who was really doing anything to assist these people who didn't have managers, you know, and people in their lives to help them.
And look after them.
And look after them and watch out for them and point them in the right direction and so on. And so that was when I started Rama. And it started very slow. It's taken a lot of years, you know, for that to kind of build. For it to build. And along the way, I knew that a lot of the information that I needed to give them to assist them properly and to consult with them properly, I knew that a lot of that information, I needed to have a source of where to get it. The producers.
Right.
Bingo, the producer's chair.
Full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah. It's great, because that is how life works. It is one big circle.
I know.
And the music industry, one really big circle. And it's not just one particular genre. All the genres touch one another. And all the musicians touch one another.
They do.
And especially in Nashville.
Yeah.
There is no place like this.
Oh, I know.
Like this place.
Nowhere in the world.
Not even Chicago.
And now all the viewers are going, who's she looking at?
I know.
Yeah.
I had to put that poke in there, though.
Well, Nashville really is special, you know, and especially Music Row itself. I mean, you know, what is it, 10 blocks long and 3 or 4 blocks wide, and the entire industry is right in there in the midst of it. Aside from a few new pockets around Nashville that have opened up, like over in Berry Hill and down in Franklin and so on, you know, but yeah.
And there's a lot going on in Franklin now, though. Franklin's really building up, too.
Oh, I know.
I'm trying to think of some other places that are building up other than
Hendersonville.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of music going on. Murfreesboro, too.
Yeah, I mean,
happening
that's Nashville. It's Music City, USA.
It is.
And they're everywhere.
It is. And anywhere like a half an hour to an hour outside of Nashville, you're going to find a lot of great music, too, as well.
But you know yourself in New York, LA, or wherever else you are, Dallas, Toronto, it doesn't matter where you are, you know, you'll drive an hour and a half, 2 hours between meetings. Because, you know, one's at one end of the city, one's at the other end of the city.
This is true.
Everything on Music Row is just
right
here.
I know, like when I leave here today, I have, it's so funny because I said, you know, let's do an itinerary, you know, so I'm leaving here and then I have a meeting 6 minutes away. So you're not kidding, 6 minutes away.
Yeah,
you know, and that's figuring in red lights. You know, so that's just incredible. But, so, okay, and you do showcases for Rama too, right? Have you done any recently?
No, I don't.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I don't do showcases. No.
Oh, okay.
No, if an artist that I'm working with wants to do a showcase, I'll tell them how to set it up and the best place to do it, and I'll search.
So you advise on showcases?
Yeah, and I'll get the best prices, and I'll make sure that, you know, if he needs a band, he's got the right band members.
All right.
You know, and I'll even go to the extent of assisting him in getting the right people to the showcase. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well. Well, then that's.
But that's.
You manage showcases, then.
That's me telling him what to do.
And,
you know, because I mean they got to learn how to do all this stuff themselves. They, you know, they've got to kind of be.
Do you ever have you ever hooked somebody up with a manager?
No, management is not something that comes before the record deal. Okay, the record deal comes first. because in a nutshell, 15% of nothing is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't a major management company who is going to take on many unsigned artists unless they really believe in them and they are developing them and they've got them, with, publishing company and everything else.
Because they just,
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, 15% of nothing is nothing. However,
Right.
once the artist gets signed, now there's something to manage.
Okay.
And the label always, I shouldn't say always, but they generally have probably their own suggestions as to which management company they feel would be the best,
Mhm.
for their artist. Yeah. No, I'm kind of the interim management, and I don't sign contracts
I
with
was going to
artists.
say, in effect, what you're doing is managing things for them and teaching them how to take care of themselves.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and I know we're focusing, and I seem to be focusing on Rama because I think that's pretty special too.
Yeah.
And I know the producer's chair is, and I guess we need to get to that because that's really what we're going to be talking about, because you have a show next week
I do.
and it's featuring Jeff
Stevens. Yeah.
And he happens to be one of my favorite songwriters in Nashville.
Oh, well, he's one of everybody's favorite songwriters
Yeah,
in
he's just-
Nashville.
he's special.
I mean, he's
He's
become
special.
iconic. His
Mhm.
songwriting is, is legendary now.
But now he's not only writing hit songs, but he's now
Yeah,
producing.
yeah.
And that is why he gets to be on the producer chair.
Yeah, and that was a God thing. I mean, his publishing company and Luke Bryan's publishing company set up a writing appointment. They got together, and it was magic. They wrote a song together, and when they finished the song, they both did a version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And unbeknownst to Jeff, okay, Luke had already done a couple of showcases for Capitol, and Larry Willoughby over at Capitol said to Luke, as you record more material, bring it over. I'd like to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So he took over that song that him and Jeff wrote together, and Larry Willoughby picked up the phone and called Jeff and said, "You keep bringing me stuff like this." He said, "We'll give you some money."
We'll give you some.
Literally,
Oh.
yeah. And
Oh, I'm sure.
so that's how it started, and that's how Jeff, that's how Luke got signed with Jeff, and they wanted Jeff. They'd heard the demos that Jeff produced and wanted him to produce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about as far as becoming a producer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I mean,
how that wheel took off.
Yeah, but I mean,
Wow.
most of the signed writers like Jeff in Nashville, they, not all of them are good at producing their own demos, but some of them have a real propensity for it, and they love it, and they love being in the studio and producing their own demos, and some of them get really good at it, and Jeff's one of these guys who got really good at it. Nathan Chapman is another one. Nathan Chapman produced all these demos,
Mm-hmm.
and as a result of that, wound up Taylor Swift's producer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And again, the circle,
yeah,
and it's like a domino effect, and one
Yeah.
thing leads you to another thing,
yeah.
which leads you to another thing. So you started out as the piano man.
I actually started out as a lead singer in bands. Yeah, and the piano thing was something that took place. I had a 9-piece horn band
Mm-hmm.
up in Toronto, doing
That had to be great.
Earth, Wind, and Fire and all that. And we were traveling back and
That's
forth across
fun.
Canada. Oh, it was killer, yeah.
Mhm.
And the disco market hit and put
Aw.
bands my size, show bands, out of business. And I
Right.
didn't know what I was going to do, so I started playing piano. Yeah.
And then piano led to song pitching, which
Songwriting.
songwriting,
And then writing led to pitching,
and pitching, and
yeah.
then pitching into Rama, and Rama into the producer's chair.
That's
Am I
right.
getting this right?
Yeah, which led to
And
this interview.
And here we are. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.